Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, good day, and good evening, everyone in Indonesia and around the globe. I'm Tata, a student of Government Science Department of Al-Azhariyah Mandar University. Welcome to the International English Training Class Batch 3, held by VLC-Indonesia and supported teams. We thank you all for your participation in our fourth session today, both from Indonesia and abroad. Okay, first of all, I would like to check our device. So, participants, if you can hear my voice clearly, you can type P on the chat box. Okay, I will repeat. If you can hear my voice clearly, you can type P on the chat box. Next, if you can see me on your screen, you can type S on the chat box. I will repeat. If you can see me on your screen, you can type S on the chat box. Okay, participants, here in the first 30 minutes, I will convey some things related to our program today. All participants, you are requested to use the Ielts Indonesia background as you can get from the group. And as you can see on my background, and write down your name, your city, and your province as you can see on my page. Okay, next, let's watch the short video profile of Universitas Al-Azhariyah Mandar and the video of SMA BPI 2 Bandung while waiting for all participants to say their name and their background. And we will also watch the video of our speaker and our host for today's session. So, okay, Miss Operator, would you help me to play the video?
datang di Universitas Al-Azhar yang Mandar. Papan-papannya disebut dengan kampus biru. Ini memiliki 6.000 lebih mahasiswa aktif dan fasilitas yang fasilitas dan juga memiliki sarana pengembangan bakat bagi setiap mahasiswanya. Yuk kita lihat fasilitasnya. Secara referensi, saya sering ke perpustakaan ini. Yuk kita masuk lihat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya Dr. dan seluruh sivitas akademika Universitas Al-Azhar Mandar mengucapkan selamat datang di Universitas Al-Azhar Mandar. Semoga doa orang tua kalian, restu orang tua kalian yang akan mengantarkan kalian masuk ke kampus ini menjadi anak yang berhasil sesuai dengan harapan orang tua, bangsa, negara, dan agama. Mohon maaf bila aku materi. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ayo kuliah di Unasman, karena Unasman mengerti semua.
Oke Google, SMA favorit di Bandung.
Saya merekomendasikan SMA BPI 2 Bandung.
Selamat datang di SMA BPI 2 Bandung, sekolah swasta yang sudah terakreditasi A dan berada di pusat kota Bandung.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Baiklah, saya akan memperkenalkan nama saya Dr. Andes Haji Waluya Wahid Utama, Kepala Sekolah SMA BPI 2 Bandung. Keunggulan SMA BPI 2 Bandung baik di dalam bidang akademik maupun non-akademik. Di bidang akademik, SMA BPI 2 Bandung lulusannya banyak diterima di perguruan tinggi negeri maupun di perguruan tinggi swasta ternama. Di bidang non-akademik, SMA BPI 2 Bandung banyak mendapatkan juara tingkat kota, tingkat provinsi, tingkat nasional maupun tingkat internasional. Alhamdulillah di tingkat internasional SMA BPI 2 mendapatkan medali emas di bidang pencaksilat. Di bidang yang lain, keunggulan SMA BPI 2 yaitu di bidang sarana, diantaranya ruangannya dilengkapi dengan CCTV, dengan AC, internet gratis, serta bangkunya satu orang, satu bangku dan satu kursi. SMA BPI 2 Bandung dalam pembelajaran BDR ini di masa pandemi COVID-19. SMA BPI 2 Bandung bertatap muka langsung dengan siswanya, yaitu dengan adanya Google Meet dan Zoom Meeting. Kenapa harus memilih SMA BPI 2 Bandung? Karena SMA BPI 2 Bandung ini guru-gurunya sangat menyenangkan, serta lulusannya S1 dan S2. Di SMA BPI 2 Bandung, pembelajarannya sudah menggunakan pendekatan saintifik. Pembelajarannya sudah berbasis revolusi industri 4.0. Di SMA BPI 2 Bandung ada pembelajaran Toefl, sehingga lulusan SMA BPI 2 Bandung sudah banyak diterima di universitas-universitas luar negeri.
Di era new normal ini, fasilitas yang menunjang protokol kesehatan sudah diterapkan dengan baik. Program pembelajaran luring dan daringnya aktif, kreatif, serta menyenangkan karena sudah berbasiskan IT. Terdapat program Basic English dan tes Toefl Preparation di setiap tingkatan kelasnya. Di tahun 2020, 52 lulusan SMA BPI 2 diterima di perguruan tinggi negeri. Dan selebihnya diterima di perguruan tinggi swasta terbaik di Indonesia. Pengembangan kreativitas siswa didukung dengan berbagai ekstrakurikuler yang memiliki banyak prestasi, mulai dari tingkat kota, provinsi, nasional, sampai internasional. Biayanya pun terjangkau dan fleksibel. Yuk buruan daftar, kuota terbatas. SMA BPI 2 unggulan, student now, leader tomorrow.
Ma, aku mau sekolah di BPI 2.
Hi everyone, I'm Naeem and I'm from Iran. I've been an English teacher and IELTS coach for the past 18 years, and I'll be talking about how you can improve your IELTS skills in the upcoming workshop in December. I would like to thank Mr. Bako and VLC-Indonesia for giving me this opportunity, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you all.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I'm Zulfanita, founder of English Corner. I'm working as the Secretary of Language and Character Building Center of Al-Azhariyah Mandar University, West Sulawesi, Indonesia. I would like to invite you all to join us on international language training organized by VLC Indonesia. There will be some speakers from some different countries. They will share their knowledge with us. For more information about this event or to register yourself, you can check it on Instagram at VLC_Indonesia. So ensure yourself to join us by registering on this event. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.
Hello, my name is Kurniawan. I am one of the students from Al-Azhariyah Mandar University. I would like to tell you that VLC Indonesia and Munasman collaborating each other to make an international English training class batch 3. I will be the host on 12 December. If you're interested, go check it out and sign up. Thank you.
Wow, so that's the video, and such an amazing video, right? Okay, thanks for Miss Operator. So yeah, participants, before I invite our host, okay, participants, before I invite our host to join us, I will read some rules of our program. First, all participants are supposed to change their name as I mentioned before. So please write down your name, your city, and your province. And the second rule is please use the virtual background as you get from our WhatsApp group. And the third is if you have any question, you can write them down on our Zoom chat box, or you can use the raise hand feature and on Zoom to ask your question directly to our speaker. And the next is about the list of attendance. The list of attendance will be given at the end of the session. So please stay with us until the end of the session. So yeah, we still have some minutes left before our main session. So I will invite some participants to talk to me. So Okay. How about Mr. Ahmad Kausar? Mr. Ahmad Kausar, can you hear my voice? Mr. Ahmad Kausar. Do you hear my voice? Do you hear my voice? Mr. Ahmad Kausar. So I think he has a bad network. So I move to Miss Amalia Reva. Miss Amalia Reva, do you hear my voice? Okay, maybe Miss Amalia Reva, do you hear my voice? So maybe I will move to Mr. Darmanto. Mr. Darmanto, do you hear my voice? Okay, I will move to Miss Dewi Sriani. How, Miss Dewiani, do you hear my voice? Hello? Okay, I will move to Miss Kiki Karina. Miss Kiki Karina. Hello? Do you hear my voice? Would you please to unmute your microphone? Hello, Miss. Okay. How about Miss Nova Elisa? Hello, Miss Nova. Do you hear my voice? Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Miss Nova Elisa, where do you come from? Hello? Miss Nova Elisa, would you please unmute your microphone? Okay, Miss Nova Elisa. Please unmute your microphone. So I will move to Mr. Muhammad Jufri. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon all.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Jufri. Where do you come
Hello,
from?
Miss.
Where do you come from?
I'm from Madura.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Would you tell us your
Yes.
profession
It's
and how?
Java.
Okay, would you tell us your
Sorry.
profession? Would you tell us your profession?
Yeah. Sorry, Miss. I don't hear. I don't get your voice clearly.
Please check, Mr. Jufri.
Yes.
Can you hear my voice clearly now?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
okay. Okay, so you're from Madura, and would you tell us your profession?
Okay. So okay. I will tell you all about my profession, but first,
Yes.
first I would like to tell you about my name first. I'm Muhammad Jufri. I'm from Madura Island. I'm a student. I'm a still students of university students, and my university is STKIP Bagir Bangkalan in Bangkalan, especially in Bangkalan Regency. Yeah, it is the wettest part of Madura Island. Exactly. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. And how did you know about Ielts Indonesia? Is it from your friends or from social media?
Okay, so you know that if we talk about Wells Indonesia, this is one of I get this information. Yeah, I get these informations start from 2 years ago. Yeah, I joined for this group. I joined for this program. Start from for the second batch. Yeah, start from batch 3, batch 2, batch 3, and batch 4. Start
Wow.
and now so three batches of this program.
Wow. Thanks for Mr. Jufri. And good to know about that. So I will invite one participant again. So I
Okay,
will,
sorry, Miss.
thank you, Mr. Jufri.
Okay, welcome. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay. So I will move to another participant. And how about Munarfa Arfa? Hello. Do you hear my voice? Hello. Munarfa Arfa. Okay. Then I will move to okay, I will move to the next session. So, all right, everyone, before we enter the main event, I will read for you the biography of the host and the panel host who will handle our session today. So, the host name is Miss Triulfanita. She is a founder of English Corner. She also works as an English trainer and secretary of Language and Character Building Center of Al Syariah Mandar University. She used to be a radio broadcaster before she decided to be an English teacher. And her passion for literacy motivated her and her older sister to establish Pustaka Rumput in Bulukumba, South Sulawesi, as a place for all people in her hometown who love books. And Miss Ulfa also loved nature photography. She loved reading and writing. And she has published poetry and essays. And one of them was launched in international event in Makassar, South Sulawesi, Indonesia. Wow. And she will not be alone today. My friend Kurniawan, a student from Communication Science Department of Al Syariah Mandar University, will be her panel host. So Kurniawan comes from a happy family, even he doesn't have any siblings. He is the only child in his family. He lives in Polewali, West Sulawesi, Indonesia. His hobbies are sleeping, playing games, and repeat them all. And now he is working as a freelance translator for manga or comics. Wow, amazing. So participants, stay with us till the end of the session. And let me invite Miss Ulfa and Kak Wawan to join us. Miss Ulfa, can you hear me?
Okay, hello Tata, I can hear you. very clearly.
Okay. Kak Wawan, can you hear my voice?
Loud and clear.
Okay, so host, use the time effectively. The floor is yours and happy listening all.
Okay, thank you, Tata. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, and good evening for all participants from Indonesia and all around the globe. How are you today?
I'm
We
fine.
do really hope you are in a good condition and welcome back to our International English Training class, batch 3 organized by VLC Indonesia and the supported teams in the fourth session today. So let's open the session with our slogan, one teacher, one book, and one thing. Participants, when I say VLC India, you can replay me by saying one teacher, one book, and one thing can change the world. Okay, I will repeat it. When I say VLC Indonesia, please replay me by saying one teacher, one book, and one thing can change the world. Okay, let's do it. VLC Indonesia.
One teacher, one book, and one thing can change the world.
One thing can change
Wow,
the
okay.
world.
Once again, VLC Indonesia.
One
One
teacher, one
teacher,
book,
one
and one thing
book,
can
and
change
one
the
thing can change the world.
Wow, very energized and amazing. Okay, so first of all, let me to introduce myself as Tata mentioned just now. So my name is Riul Vanita. Just call me Miss Ulfa. Actually, I'm a founder of English Corner, and now I'm working of Language and Character Building Center of Al Azhariyah Mandar University, West Sulawesi, Indonesia. And I will be the host for, and we do really appreciate you all for attending today's session. And of course, we will learn English a lot of today together. So, participant, it is a privilege for us to learn as much knowledge about English for 1 and 30 minutes ahead. And today, of course, I'm not alone because my panel host here with me. And actually, he is one of our students from Communication Science Department of Al Azhariyah Mandar University. Okay, Wawan, can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can hear, Miss. Thank you very much, Miss Ulfa. Honestly, this is my first time doing this kind of thing, so I do apologize if I make a mistake. Hi everyone, I am Kurniawan as a student of Al Azhariyah Mandar University, West Sulawesi. And now I'm working as, like the moderator said before, I'm working as freelance comic translator. And hello Indonesia, and hello to all participants from other country. I do hope that everything is okay today. Here I'm going to tell you that there are 3 sessions in our training today. The first is the opening remarks. The second is a presentation from the speaker. And the last is Q&A session. So what next, Miss Ulfa?
Okay, Wawan. Okay, thank you for asking, Wawan. So before that, we would like to read some rules of our house today. First, mute your microphone. Yeah, please mute your microphone. Expect the host let you to speak. Okay, so we remind you to mute your microphone during the session. And the second, please keep your camera on so we can see you make an interaction with us. And the third, please rename your account. You can type your nickname underscores your town if you come from Indonesia, but if you come from the abroad, you can type your nickname underscores your country. I will give you the example. Wawan underscores Polewali if you come from Indonesia. So please rename your account. Wawan underscores Polewali if you come from Indonesia. And Jonathan German if you come from the abroad. And what is the fourth rule, Wawan?
And then number 4, you can ask a question in the chat room, or you can use raise hand feature in your Zoom. So you can deliver your question directly on Q&A session. And the last, there are a list of attendance for the last 10 minutes before we finish the session. And do not forget to screenshot by yourself for joining this session as a proof that you have participated in VLC Indonesia program.
Okay, so also recommend you to use our virtual background prepared by VLC Indonesia. You can get it from our Instagram, our WhatsApp group, yeah. Okay, so I can our participant have used the big. Okay, thank you for using it. And before we start our session today, I would like to invite Ibu Profesor Ratnasari Dewi, the lecturer of UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Indonesia, to join us for the opening remarks. Okay, Assalamualaikum Ibu Prof. Can you hear my voice?
I can hear you well here. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Vanita, yeah.
Okay, how are you, Prof?
I'm fine, thanks, all of you. We hope that you will thanks. Right?
Okay, thank you, Prof. So, well, Prof, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Yeah.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, it is very nice, to meet you again for the second time for me, to be invited in this international English training class. Yeah, but before that, we all thanks to God that we are given health and also power to meet together in this fruitful moment, to share what we call that knowledge and also to improve the skills, especially for English, right? So I'm for the first time, I would like to give my big thanks to the founders of VLC Indonesia. Mr. Bako, where are you? How are you
Hello,
today?
I'm doing well. My
Thank
best
you very much.
professor.
Thank you very much. And also, I want to give my thanks to Mr. Naeem Tazakkor from Iran. Welcome to VLC Indonesia, Mr. Is she here now?
Thank you so much. I'm so
Right.
happy to
Okay.
be here with you.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. And then my thanks also to the moderator, Miss Tata. Okay, thank you, Miss Tata. And also the host, Miss Ulfa, and also Mr. Kurniawan. Right, today, if not mistaken, our topic is how to improve your IELTS skill. You know that IELTS skill, IELTS test is very, very needed nowadays, right? So, we will discuss about this this afternoon event this morning, or even more it is in the evening, the other sides of Indonesia and other countries. All right, before that, that we know all together that International English Language Testing System, or IELTS, is the world's most popular international English language testing system for study, for work, and immigration purposes. Is that right?
Yes.
And then IELTS standardized test content was developed by an international team of experts and through extensive research to ensure a test that remain fair and unbiased for any participant, regardless of nationality, background, gender, lifestyle, or location. So it is very, very extensive research to have to build or to get this kind of test. And then you can take IELTS academic for IELTS general training, right? Depending on your institution's enrollment requirements and your plan for the future. So whether it is for your academic, for your professional, or for migration later on. And then you know that the format of IELTS tests, there are consists of four skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And then we know that when we take the listening, reading, and writing test on the same day in stages, with no breaks in between, depending on your test center. Your speaking test may be on the same day as the other 3 tests, or up to 7 days before or after. The total times is under 3 hours. So it means that speaking is what we call it, depending on the test center, right? Whether it is carried out before or after. Yeah, the 3 tests that have been given to you later on. And then why the IELTS format fair to you, because you have the right to prove all your abilities to the best of your ability. That's why, unlike other tests, IELTS provide a quiet, uninterrupted space to test your speaking skills. And then I also recognize that everyone may have a different approach when answering questions. For example, in the IELTS test, you can answer the question on the reading or writing test in a flexible order at your convenience. Yeah, you can also vary your reading answers during reading test hours and adjust your essay writing result during writing test hour. So it is very fair for us to deal with this test. And then why we choose IELTS? Because this is a test for study purposes, because this is a test for professional, right? And also this is a test for migration purposes. I think it is very unique, right? When your IELTS score level is set as a prerequisite for permanent residency application by government, right? In more countries than any other English test. Yeah, when you want to move to other countries like government of the UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, you need to take this test, this kind of test. And then also why you choose the IELTS test, because it's a more fair test for you to get it. So what is the key important thing here? That is the first is practice is very important. Okay, and then electronic notebook is also very important for you. Okay, because you have to read, practice this skill to be tested before that, and then you can have your ability and also your skill to prove that or to get the highest score in your IELTS test. So it means that reading is the key important thing here, and also practice is very, very important things here. So I hope that whether you take later on this test, it means that you will get your success. You have you get your, or you reach higher the score of this test. I think it is the end for me. Thank you very much. Please join this until the end of the session, and hope that you will get success later on for your future. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Prof. And let's give our appreciation to Ibu Prof. Ratnasari Dewi for her splendid speech, for opening our mind. Okay, let's give her an applause.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, participants, let's enter our mind session, and please welcome our speaker today, Mr. Naeem Tazakkor. Hello, Mr. Naeem. Can you hear my voice?
Hi, yes, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be here with you. I'm so happy to be here. And okay, so without further ado, we will start. So am I allowed to share my screen and share the PowerPoint file?
Okay, hold on, Mr. Naeem. Hold on for a moment, Coach. Hold on for a moment, yeah, Coach. Okay, so what will we do before that, Wawan?
That's right, Miss Ulfa. I cannot wait for getting more knowledge and something new for our speaker. But before that, I will read first about his biography. Okay, his name is Mr. Naeem Tazakkor. He came from Iran, and he is an IELTS coach and English teacher.
Wow, wonderful. So, Wawan, today we are going to talk about IELTS topic, and as Ibu Prof mentioned just now, so the IELTS is actually the acronym of the International English Language Testing System. Yeah, it will evaluate us in our 4 language skill, include in listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And as Ibu Prof mentioned just now, in this test, the listening, reading, writing always completed immediately after each and without no break, yeah. And then the speaking sometimes will be taken before and or after the previous test. It's about 7 days before and ahead, yeah. And don't worry, participants, today we are going to talk more about that with our coach. Okay.
Okay, coach. How do you feel about joining this program with VLC Indonesia?
Okay, I feel really great. I've never actually participated in such a large gathering of, I see here about 123 participants right now, and more people are entering as I see on the screen. So this is fantastic. In my classes, usually I have 1 or 2 students and okay, the maximum of maybe 10, 15 students. So this is fantastic. I feel really great to be here.
So are you ready for presenting your topic to all participants?
Yes, of course, yes.
Okay, coach, 1 hour for presentation and the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So the topic for today's presentation is how to improve your IELTS skills. And okay, so let me share this here. Yeah, okay. So can everyone see this?
Okay, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Let me just move this. Yeah. Okay, so the topic for today's presentation is how to improve your IELTS skills. So I've been teaching IELTS classes for about, I can say, about 14 years.
Wow.
I've been teaching English for about 18 years, but IELTS particularly and specifically for about 14 years. And IELTS is one of the most popular English exams taken by people here in my country because most of the people are thinking of immigrating to other countries, either for educational or for educational purposes, or sometimes for just working and living there. And IELTS is usually a test required by immigration offices and by universities. So that's why throughout the past 14 years, I've been teaching various IELTS classes to students, and the tips and techniques that I'm going to teach you right now are somehow the result of my experience during the past 14 years. So I decided to divide these by the 4 skills, by the 4 sections of this test. So as my good friends also mentioned before I started, the written test of IELTS has 3 parts. It starts with the listening, and then the reading, and then the writing. The whole test takes about 3 hours and about 45 minutes. This is the written test. It always starts with listening, which lasts for about 40-45 minutes. Then immediately, without a break, the reading part starts. It takes about 1 hour, and then immediately the writing part, which takes another 1 hour. So I will be discussing these 3 areas and what you can do to improve your skills in these 3 areas first. And then finally comes speaking. So as you said, speaking might be conducted on a different day or on the same day. And no matter you are taking the computer version or the paper version of the exam, the speaking part will be an interview with a person, with an examiner. So maybe in some other tests like the Toefl, the speaking section is conducted via a computer. You actually see the question on the screen and then you speak and you are recorded. But in the IELTS exam, The speaking section is always an interview with an examiner, which could be conducted on the same day or on a different day, a few days earlier or a few days later, and it lasts about 20 minutes. Okay, so let's move on and start by talking about the listening section. So in the IELTS exam, you will see about 40 questions for the listening. You are supposed to read the questions. You are supposed to read the questions before you hear the recording, and then afterward, while you are listening to the recording, you will answer the questions. So, and there are different types of questions. Sometimes you're supposed to fill in the blanks. Sometimes you are supposed to choose the right answer from, you know, for example, 3 or 4 choices, or sometimes you have to choose 2 correct answers from 6 choices. Sometimes you have to match some parts to each other. So we have various types of questions. And in order to prepare yourself for this section, you have to improve your ability to listen and comprehend what you listen, to listen and understand what you listen. And you need to be quick because you will only hear the recording once. You will not have a chance to listen for a second time. So you need to be quick, and spelling also matters. So you need some spelling practice. Spelling also matters because if you don't spell the words correctly, you will lose marks. So this is where the IELTS exam again differs from some other tests, because here you have to write the correct answer actually. And if you don't spell it correctly, you will lose marks. So in order to prepare yourself for this test, for the listening section, you need some active listening practice and some passive listening practice. We need both. And what do I mean by active and passive? So let's start with active listening practice. So what I mean by that is that you will be active while you are doing this kind of practice. Now, there are several types of things that you need to do, but basically, you need to improve your general English first. So you should not expect a person who has just started studying English to be able to do well on the IELTS exam, or to be able to even particularly practice IELTS type of exercises, or for example, work on IELTS books. So firstly, it is highly recommended that you improve your English. So if you are a beginner, or if you are an intermediate student of English, the first recommendation is that you join English classes, or in any other way, just try to improve your English and at least reach an upper intermediate level or an advanced level of proficiency, and then start your IELTS practice. But then, when you have reached that level, when you are already an upper intermediate level student, when you are already an advanced level student, and you have decided to sit the IELTS test, now it's time for IELTS practice, particularly IELTS practice. So as you can see on the screen, one of the most useful methods is transcription, to transcribe something that you hear. And what do I mean by transcription? What I mean is you listen to a passage and then you pause and try to write it down. Now you can do that at first, chunk by chunk. So you can listen to a short piece, a short listening piece, maybe even less than 1 sentence, pause, and then if you can write it down, write it down. If it is still not possible for you to write it down, just rewind and listen again. You may repeat this as many times as necessary and try to write down what you hear. After you are sure that you have written everything, and then even if you listen again and again, you can't add anything to it, you may move on and listen to the next chunk. Okay, while you are doing this kind of practice, you shouldn't hurry. You shouldn't be in a hurry to complete a 10-minute, a 20-minute, a 30-minute recording. What you need to focus on is practice. So you may even spend 1 hour. Maybe it's the first time you are doing this kind of practice. It takes you a long time. Maybe you will spend 1 hour and just listen to 5 minutes and transcribe 5 minutes of a video or an audio file. It doesn't matter. The important thing is to get that practice in. Okay, the next exercise is, the next thing that you need to do is to find your weaknesses. So after you have finished with transcription, after you have written down everything that you heard, it's now time to find out where your weaknesses are so that you can improve those areas. What you need to do is to check the script, check the correct script. So probably you are practicing with source material, which also provides you with the script. After you check what you have already written with the script, with the correct script, you can find out where you went wrong, in which areas you could not write the answers or write the script correctly. Maybe your weakness was in spelling. Maybe you got the word, but you didn't spell it correctly. Then you realize you have to improve in that area. You have to improve your spelling for that particular word and for other words, because spelling matters. Maybe there was a section, as you can see, connected speech matters. Maybe there was a part of the listening audio file where the speakers connected many words to each other and just said them really quickly. And because of that, you were not able to understand. And so you will realize that you need to focus more on connected speech. You know that in English, sometimes, actually in many cases, native speakers don't pronounce words one by one. They actually connect words to each other. So instead of saying, they connect them to each other and say, instead of saying. So that's what I mean by connected speech. And different pronunciations might also cause a problem for you, because IELTS is an international exam. We have different accents and sometimes different pronunciations on this test. You may have a recording by an Australian speaker, a British speaker, an American speaker, sometimes even a Kiwi speaker, a person from New Zealand, or other accents. But I think the more common ones are these. So you may run into different pronunciations from what you have been taught at your language school. For example, you might know that Americans usually say advertisement, but the British usually say advertisement. So if you are only used to one pronunciation, then on the day of the exam, you may run into problems. So it's better to become familiar with different pronunciations of the word, if there are different pronunciations for that particular word. And then the other thing is new words. Another thing that might cause a problem for you while you are listening to something is that you may actually run into new words, words that you didn't know. This is also quite possible. So when you are checking what you have written, the transcription that you have done with the actual script of that listening material, you may come across new words that you don't know. And that's why you couldn't actually transcribe it correctly, because you didn't know the word. So if this is the case, then you need to improve your vocabulary. So in order to improve your listening for the IELTS exam, let me just recap. In order to improve your listening for the IELTS exam, I recommend transcription in order to improve your listening skills. And then after you did transcribe the passage, after you spend enough time, you just compare what you have written with the script. Then here you can find your weaknesses. If you had any problems, the problems are probably because there was connected speech. You didn't understand that. You need to practice more in order to improve yourself in that area. there might be different pronunciations. Maybe you are not familiar with the pronunciation. Maybe you thought that the pronunciation was something else wrongly. Sometimes it happens that we ourselves pronounce something wrongly, and then when we hear the correct pronunciation, we can't understand. And also sometimes there are different pronunciations by native speakers. You need to be familiar, and sometimes you come across new words. So these tips and this technique is to help you improve your listening in general. Now, in the IELTS exam, I'm sure that when you are preparing, you will take tests and you will also improve your test taking strategies. Okay, so I will now move on to passive. Okay, yes. Okay, so before we move on to passive listening skills, I also wanted to give you some recommendations about the resources you can use for transcription and for active listening practice. So one of the things you can use is podcasts. I'm sure these days you are familiar with what podcasts are. There are various applications you can use to find podcasts. If your English is at an advanced level, you can just listen to anything you want. But if you feel that you need something easier to help you improve at the moment, then maybe you can go to your Google Apps, or if you are using an iPhone, to App Store or on the internet, and just search for English learning or listening podcasts. I think one of the useful ones is an application by the British Council, where you can find different listening passages, and they have been actually classified into various levels of proficiency, so you can use easier ones for yourself. Then there are also listening textbooks. There are some books available on the market, particularly to improve your listening skills. For example, I'm sure you have heard the word, the name of the book, Tactics for Listening. So Tactics for Listening is one of those books that is just aimed at improving your listening skills. And then, of course, there are IELTS books. You know that on the market, you can find Cambridge IELTS books. In each of these books, you will find 4 IELTS exams. These are past papers. So this means in the past, these questions were used on a test. And now they have been collected in books. You can actually listen. You can do the exercises. You have the script. You have the answer key, and also some parts of the passage that contains the answer have been underlined for you. So it is very easy to work with them. However, they are at IELTS level. So you can actually start working on these books when you have reached a good level of proficiency, and when you know you are ready to start practicing for the IELTS exam. Those books are also very good because you are actually practicing on real IELTS tests. And finally, IELTS apps, as I explained previously. Yes, there are lots of apps you can find, and they say where there's a will, there's a way. So if you start looking, you will definitely find. Sometimes I see that my students find apps that I didn't know about because they're actively looking for this stuff. So all you need to do is just look for listening apps, English learning apps, and you will find tons of them. Maybe the ones that were developed in your country, or the ones that were developed by Cambridge or Oxford or other famous institutes. Okay, now let's move on to passive listening practice. So active listening practice, the way I explained, is not the only way you can and you should be improving your English listening skills. There's also passive listening skill. This is also important, and this somehow works indirectly. You may not even realize that you are improving, but this happens unconsciously. And that's when you are listening in the background. So maybe you are driving, maybe you are cleaning the house, maybe you are, I don't know, talking to people. So you could be doing anything else. And at the same time, some sort of English material is playing in the background. So unconsciously, you are listening to it. And that's when you are listening to the news, for example. So the TV is on or the radio is on and it's playing the news in English. Maybe it's a movie. So you are just watching a movie and maybe your main purpose is to enjoy the movie. But at the same time, the movie is in English and you are exposed to English words, English expressions, English idioms. Even if you are not actively studying, you are not pausing it and looking for words, still you are getting that benefit of being exposed to English. This is good because while you are doing it, you will be exposed to different types of pronunciation, different accents, the music of the language, because language has music, and you will see how which words in each sentence are emphasized, which words are not emphasized. And basically speaking, it trains your ears. Even if it's happening unconsciously, it is definitely useful. And I recommend that you have this kind of practice as well. And also there are songs, of course. Yes, I'm sure that many of you like to listen to music, and many of these songs are in English. So even if, as I said again about movies, even if you are not actively trying to learn, and if you're just listening for pleasure, you will definitely benefit from this. So this is also passive listening practice, and I highly recommend that you have this kind of listening practice as well. And some people are fortunate enough to be working in English-speaking environments. So for those, we will have more passive listening practice every day because they will be talking to their colleagues and they will hear other people use English and they will learn things. So that's also considered some sort of passive listening practice. Okay, so that's what I had to say about listening. Now, let's move on to reading. So similar to reading, similar to listening, I also think that we have active and passive reading practice. But before I start, let me shortly explain about the reading section on the IELTS exam. So you may be taking the general or the academic versions of the IELTS exam. About the listening exam, there are no differences, but about the reading exam, they are slightly different from each other. So in the academic exam, you have 3 long passages. And then for each passage, you have about 13 questions, sometimes 14. Overall, you have 40 questions. And the difficulty level of these questions is different. Usually we have some easier questions, some medium level questions, and some more difficult questions. So depending on your proficiency level, you may be able to answer maybe 10 questions, maybe 20, maybe 30 or more. These passages are academic passages, so they will be discussing academic topics, various academic topics such as the weather, the environment, animals, history, law. So in order to practice, you should work on these types of passages related to these topics. Then on the general exam, things are a little bit different. The number of questions remains the same. We again have 40 questions, but the difference is instead of having 3 long passages, we have a larger number of shorter passages. So for example, maybe you have 3 short passages for one section, then for example, 2 short passages for another section, and then 1 longer passage for the third section. Overall, so you may have between 5 to 6 passages. These passages are about everyday topics. So you may come across a passage, for example, that is a leaflet, and it's telling people how to buy insurance, or maybe it's an advertisement for a company, or maybe it's a list of instructions on how to use a machine. So these are passages that you will see during your everyday life. They are naturally a little easier, but in the general exam, in order to get a particular score, you need to answer more questions. So the questions are easier, but in order to get your desired score, you need to answer more of these questions. So generally speaking, lots of people, lots of teachers and educators agree that in order to get a good score on this exam, you need to be a fast reader. So you need to become familiar with the skills of skimming and scanning. At the same time, you need to improve your vocabulary as much as possible. They usually say the IELTS reading test is essentially a vocabulary test. So you need to spend a lot of time improving your vocabulary as well as your reading speed. So that's why I recommend active reading practice and passive reading practice. So let's talk about active reading practice first. As I said, it is essentially a vocabulary test. So if you know more words, then you probably can get a better score. So if you join an IELTS class, they usually tell you about the techniques of skimming and scanning and guessing words from context. Okay, these techniques help us answer the questions faster, and guessing the meanings of words from context also helps you sometimes answer the questions even when you don't know the meanings of some words. And that's an essential skill, because no matter how much you study and how much you practice, you will again come across some words and some vocabulary items that you don't know. So you need to know how to guess the meanings of some words from context. And just to make it clear, when I say context, I mean the words around the word that you don't know. So each word is in a paragraph, and that paragraph is in a passage. So what the passage is about, what that paragraph is about, the meanings of the words before and after that particular word, they are called the context. And the context always helps you try to guess the meaning of that particular word, in addition to some other factors that might help you guess. For example, you try to find out whether this word is a noun or an adjective or a verb, the part of speech. Also, you may be familiar with some roots, prefixes, some suffixes. They may also help you guess the meaning of that word. However, it's important to try and improve your vocabulary as much as possible before you take the test, because if the number of words you have to guess increases, you will probably not be able to answer the questions very well. So if you want to be able to answer more questions, you should try to learn more words before the exam and try to reduce the number of words that you have to guess. If you always have to guess the meanings of all of the words, you probably can't do it, because then you don't have a context. You don't know any of the words. And that's where you will run into problems. So as a suggestion, a skill that I think you need to work on in order to get a better score in the reading section, I would say improve your vocabulary. Focus on improving your vocabulary and learn the vocabulary from context. So when it comes to learning vocabulary, you might ask, what do I do to be able to remember this word for a long time? So my response to that, in addition to studying and reviewing, is trying to learn them from context. So instead of just memorizing a list of words, try to read a passage and learn the words in that passage. That way, you will see how the word is used in a sentence, and you will see in which type of passage this word is usually used. And also, you may come across the different meanings of that word in different passages. This passage doesn't have to be a written passage. It could sometimes be a listening passage. Maybe you listen to something, and as we explained in the listening section, Maybe you are doing some transcription and then you check the script and then you see the word and then you look it up. So, and then you will probably remember that word better. So if you listen to a word or read a word inside a passage, you will probably remember that better. Sometimes you may also see and learn or hear a word in a movie or in a storybook, at work, in a document, on a website, you are reading something. So whenever you see these words in these contexts, your chances of remembering those words will increase. Okay. Now let me continue. Okay. Yeah. So there are some useful resources that I recommend, particularly for reading practice, for active reading practice. These are books that introduce the words to you, specifically the academic words that are very important for the IELTS exam, because as I said, the passages are academic passages. And you will see these words in context in a reading passage. And then there's a chance for you to do some exercises. There are some activities, some exercises that you can do in order to understand the words even better. So one of the books that I always recommend is a book called Inside Reading. These books have been divided into various levels. So depending on your proficiency level, you can choose one of them that is better for you and start studying. These books have been designed for both classroom use and self-study because they contain answers. So even if you are not working with a teacher, you yourself can study the book, look up the new words in your dictionary, do the exercises, and then check your answers. Then another book that I recommend is this one, the Active Reading Skills series. They are very similar to Inside Reading, but I think the passages are a little bit more interesting. So Inside Reading might contain more difficult passages, but this one contains more interesting passages based on what my students believe. Then when it comes to studying vocabulary for the IELTS exam, you must not forget about Cambridge vocabulary for IELTS. I think these are a must for anyone who wants to take the IELTS exam and who wants to improve their vocabulary. These books have two different types. You have the regular one and the advanced one. So if at the moment you are an upper intermediate student and your goal is to get 6 or 6.5 on the IELTS exam, I recommend that you start with the first book, Vocabulary for IELTS. But if you think you are an advanced student and your goal is to get 7, 7.5 or a higher score, then you may go and start studying Vocabulary for IELTS Advanced. This book contains more difficult words. And the good thing about these books, why I like them compared to other vocabulary books, is that they introduce the vocabulary to you in the context of IELTS questions. So in each chapter of these two books, you have different IELTS type questions. You have reading questions, listening questions, writing, speaking. And in the context of those exercises, those IELTS type exercises, you are introduced to new vocabulary. And also there is topics. So actually the vocabulary have been divided based on topic. For example, if I'm not mistaken, the first unit is about family and growing up. And this is one of the topics that we have on the IELTS exam in the speaking section, maybe in the reading and listening section, maybe in the writing section. And so in this first unit, you will learn the words that you can use when you talk about family and growing up. And then, of course, there's Focus on Vocabulary 1 and Focus on Vocabulary 2. These two books are also very useful because they teach you, again, vocabulary in the context of reading passages. And the focus is on vocabulary, but you actually have reading passages. You are reading, you are learning the words in the context, then you will be doing some vocabulary exercises. And this book also can be done by yourself. It can be done in a classroom with the help of a teacher, but also you can do it yourself, because you can have the answers at the end of the book, and you can use your dictionary. And be sure to check, if you are working alone, be sure to check the pronunciation of the words, because these books sometimes just have reading passages without audio file. So if you come across a new word, be sure to check the pronunciation if you don't have a teacher. All right, so in addition to active reading practice, which is very important for the IELTS exam, but we also have passive reading practice. So passive reading practice is when you are not consciously and purposefully trying to learn words, but anyway, you are exposed to reading materials. You are reading things. This is also extremely important because it teaches you, first of all, how the words are used in different contexts. Secondly, it teaches you how to skim and scan, because a lot of the times, for example, when you are reading the newspaper, you don't focus on reading everything from the first word of the first page of that newspaper to the last word of the last page. You will be looking for something that interests you, and that's the skill of scanning. And then when you find something interesting, maybe you will not read the passage slowly and carefully. Maybe you will just read it quickly. You want to get the main idea, and that's the skill of skimming. So when you are reading websites, when you are reading instructions, newspapers, online articles, you will most likely practice skimming and scanning, which are two essential skills for the IELTS exam as well. As a matter of fact, they have tried their best to make this exam look like real life. So if you learn these real life skills, how to read websites, how to read web recipes, instructions, articles, newspapers, and this part, can't see it. Yeah, and magazines, if you are into reading magazines, you will most likely learn and acquire these skills, which will be useful for the exam as well. Of course, you cannot, for example, if your IELTS exam is 2 months from now, you cannot just try to read things on websites and recipes and instructions. You will probably study actively more than passively. But anyway, if taking the exam is one of your goals, I recommend that you start doing these things, start reading these materials in English right now. They will definitely be helpful for you in the future. And of course, novels, short stories, poetry, anything basically that is in English can be considered passive reading practice and will definitely be useful for you in any reading test, including the IELTS test. Okay, now let's talk about writing a little bit. So the writing section of the exam is the last section, unfortunately. So you have already been answering the questions for about 2 hours when you reach the writing section. You may be a little bit tired, but then writing also takes a lot of energy and focus. In the IELTS exam, again, the writing is different, whether you are taking, depending on you are taking the academic or the general format of the exam. If you are taking the academic exam, you need to be able to write a report, and after that you need to write an essay. So the report is shorter. They give you a diagram which gives you some statistics, some information. You need to write a short report based on that diagram. The diagram could be a table. It could be a graph, a line graph, for example. It could be a bar chart. It could be a pie chart. It could be several of these. For example, there could be 2 bar charts or 1 bar chart and, for example, a pie chart. And sometimes also you have maps and schemes of buildings. So you need to actually practice all of these in your IELTS classes. But for all of them, you need the skills that I have listed here. And then there's the essay. The essay is longer. So the report is just 20 minutes and a minimum of 150 words. But the essay is longer. You have 40 minutes and a minimum, and you should write a minimum of 250 words. The essay is basically an argument. So you need to argue and support your own arguments. Maybe you are asked to express your opinion on a topic. Maybe you are asked to discuss two different points of view about something and then give your own opinion. And maybe you are asked to discuss the causes and solutions of a problem. In any case, you need to argue, you need to give your own opinions, and then support those opinions with reasons and examples. So there are 4 criteria when they want to assess your score. There are 4 criteria. Actually, they assess your score based on the content. So you have to answer the question completely, read the question carefully and provide a complete answer, and try to develop your answers sufficiently. And then there's the issue of vocabulary, grammar, and coherence and cohesion. So again, you have had vocabulary practice for reading. The difference now is that you have to be able to use those words yourself. And then there's grammar. So you need to be able to use a variety of grammatical structures, complex and compound sentences, and various tenses and other tips and tricks that you will probably learn in your grammar classes. So as I said, in order to get a good score, you need to be at least an upper intermediate or advanced level student. So you need to have learned those grammatical rules before you start practicing for IELTS. In IELTS classes, they will only review the grammar for you, but they cannot and they don't have enough time to go into details. But we need grammar for writing. We don't have, in the IELTS exam, we don't have specific grammar questions, but when you write something, they will assess your grammar, and the better your grammar and punctuation is, the higher your score will be. And when it comes to vocabulary here, again, spelling is an issue. So if you spell your words incorrectly, you will lose marks in writing as well. And then for writing, we also have coherence and cohesion. So these are things that you need to learn for writing particularly. So by coherence, they mean the organization of your essays. You need to organize them logically and, based on an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And this is something you will learn in your writing classes, and it's not that difficult actually. And in each paragraph, you need to have a main idea with a topic sentence and supporting sentences. So that's also important for coherence. And for cohesion, you need to be able to connect your sentences to each other correctly, using linking words, using pronouns, using substitution, using one word instead of another word with the same meaning. So these are all important for the writing section. You need to improve in all those areas. But some things that you can do in general that can improve your writing overall for the IELTS exam, I have listed them here. So one of the things that is important is reading. You might be surprised, but reading does have a huge influence on your writing. Maybe you have experienced this in your own language. A person who reads many books can probably write better than a person who doesn't read. So if you read samples, good samples that have been written before, sample essays and sample reports that have been able to get a high score of 8 or 9, and if you learn how those people wrote them, the way they use vocabulary and grammar, this probably can have a good influence on your writing as well. So don't think that you just have to write. In order to learn to write well, you also need to read. You read, and this influences your writing. You can actually actively take notes of the things that you think are interesting when you are reading other people's samples. Maybe you come across an expression, a word, a chunk. A chunk is a group of words that that person has used, which you think you might be able to use as well. Maybe you will be asked to write about the same topic. If you will be asked to write about the same topic as that sample, you may even use some of the words. So you may learn some words and then use them in your own writing. And there are always some words and some expressions that you can use in various writing passages. So when you read samples, even if those samples are not directly the same topic that you are going to write, they will be helpful for you. And then again, as I said, the importance of vocabulary and grammar, obviously, because they are one of the criteria. We already talked about how to improve your vocabulary for reading. Grammar is something you need to learn little by little. So a book such as Cambridge Grammar for IELTS has like a summary of all the grammar you need, but it would be too difficult and too boring to start studying it from the beginning to the end. So instead, what you need to do is to find out your areas of weakness and then just focus on those areas and try to improve those areas. You need to have learned your grammar gradually in your English classes. That's the best method. In these classes, they teach you one grammar rule, and then you have the opportunity to practice this a lot, and it will be again reviewed, so you will learn it well. But if you are preparing for the IELTS exam and you feel that you have certain areas of weakness in grammar, then I recommend that you just focus on doing more grammar exercises in those particular areas and, just eliminate your weaknesses. And I have pointed here, learn the structure. By a structure, yeah, I mean the organization. So this is something you will learn in your IELTS classes. Learn the assessment criteria. This is important. I reviewed the assessment criteria for you. We also need to know what is the criteria for our particular band score. So for example, if I'm looking to get a band score of 6, I need to know what level of grammar and vocabulary I need to reach a 6. And if I want to get a 7, I need to know particular descriptors for band 7. Fortunately, the descriptors, the band descriptors are public. There's a public version you can find. So I know that, for example, if I should get 6 for the writing, I know that I'm allowed to have some grammar mistakes, but the sentences should be clear. And my mistakes should not block communication. A person who reads my writing should be able to understand everything clearly. And I know that I am allowed to have some mistakes in vocabulary, but then again, they should not block communication. I know that I need to have paragraphs. If I don't divide my essay into paragraphs, I cannot get 6. And I know that I should understand the question and try to answer the question. At least I should try to introduce my ideas and try to support them. So if I don't understand the question and completely write off topic, if I don't answer the question, I can't get 6. So I need to know the band descriptors. But if I want to get 7, then I'm not allowed to have too many mistakes in vocabulary and grammar. The person who wants to get 7 should have just a few mistakes. Most of the sentences should be error-free without any errors. So you need to understand the assessment criteria that will help you prepare better for the writing. And then another thing which is extremely important is having your essays corrected. So I think yesterday I had a class with a good student and I was asked to correct her writing. Unfortunately, she hadn't had her writing corrected before. So she had some mistakes that she could very easily get rid of. If she had started having her essays corrected a little earlier, unfortunately, her exam is this week and it's now too late. So if you are preparing for the IELTS exam, don't wait until the last week before the exam to have your essays corrected by an IELTS coach, a teacher, or someone whose English is good. Because no matter how much you practice, you read different books, you read grammar books, you read vocabulary books, still when you write something, you may have some mistakes. And if someone reads and corrects your essay for you, they can actually tell you these mistakes and you can get rid of some of them pretty quickly. Each time that someone corrects your essay, you will learn some of your mistakes and you will try to eliminate them. And then little by little, your writing gets better and better. So in addition to reading samples, in addition to improving your grammar and vocabulary, you also need correction. And a person who is an IELTS coach also knows about the organization, also knows about the content that you should include in each of your essays. They know about, for example, how to write a paragraph, so they can give you better tips compared to a person who is not an IELTS coach and whose English is good. A person whose English is good can only give you tips on vocabulary and grammar, maybe, but not on specific IELTS related topics and techniques. And the next thing, keep a record of useful phrases. Yes, as I said, reading is important. So you may not even be reading something IELTS related. Maybe you are reading an article online and then you come across something interesting, a phrase, a chunk, a group of words that you think are useful and that you think you may also be able to use. So my recommendation is keep a record of these, maybe in a file, maybe in a notebook, and then review them. And then you will probably be able to use them in your own writing as well. So now let's move on to speaking. So the speaking section of the exam, in my opinion, can be the most relaxed or at the same time the most stressful part. It could be stressful because you need to speak to a person face to face, but it could be relaxed as well because it's just speaking, it's regular speaking. It's not, you don't feel that you're answering questions, taking a test. So you probably will be more relaxed if you are not stressed about, talking to a person face to face. In this part of the exam, they want to see that you can speak naturally. So this is important. Don't try to impress the examiner by using the most difficult words and the most difficult grammar that you know. This is not really the purpose. The purpose is for you to be able to speak naturally. So again, there are 4 criteria. We have fluency. Fluency basically means you can speak continuously without hesitating too often, without repeating yourself too often. And you are able to use connecting words to connect your sentences to each other and have a natural flow. So this is fluency. Then there's also vocabulary and grammar. But I recommend that you try and use more informal vocabulary. If you can learn phrasal verbs, they can be extremely useful for this section. Phrasal verbs are not considered difficult by native speakers, but they will probably be difficult for non-native speakers because each phrasal verb might have different meanings and it might be confusing. So if you can use them, it shows that your English is advanced. Here also we have the issue of idioms and idiomatic language. So if you can use idioms at the right place, and by idiomatic language, it's not necessarily just fixed idioms. Sometimes a phrasal verb is also considered idiomatic language because the meaning is different. The meaning of the whole expression or the whole phrasal verb is different from the meaning of each word. All right, so idiomatic language and phrasal verbs, they can really be helpful. I don't recommend that you use very formal words in this section. You don't have to. And then there's grammar. And then finally, there's pronunciation. So when it comes to pronunciation, you should try to be clear and understandable. So you don't necessarily have to follow a particular accent, but you need to be clear. There's always an influence from your mother tongue when you speak English. Try to minimize that influence if you can to a level that what you say is clear. If the influence of your mother tongue accent is so heavy and so much that the examiner cannot understand what you're saying, then that could reduce your score. So these are the 4 criteria. Now, how can we improve? How can we practice? Speaking practice, I think, is the most fun. You can practice speaking with peers. So peers means people at your own level. I'm sure you can find groups on various social media apps where people are trying to practice English. So in these groups, you can find friends who are practicing for the IELTS exam, just like you. And then you can set a time and just work on IELTS questions together. You can imagine that one of you is the examiner and the other one is just taking the exam. Ask the question and answer the question. This kind of practice can help you because you learn to speak fluently. Because the more speaking practice you have, the more fluent you have. Maybe your friend cannot tell you all your mistakes. That's true. But because you speak and speak and speak, you become more and more fluent. And you will pause less, and you will become more confident, because confidence is also important. When you have communicated with a person continuously, you become more confident in your ability to get the meaning across and to communicate better. And if what you're saying is completely wrong, probably your partner or your friend will not understand you, and he will ask you or she will ask you about it, and then you realize this sentence was incorrect because it couldn't convey the meaning. Conveying the meaning is very important. And with such kind of practice, you learn to convey the meaning. And if you are in the IELTS exam, if you are able to convey the meaning despite your mistakes, at least your score for vocabulary and grammar is 6. So then we have speaking practice with the coach. This is excellent because the coach can tell you mistakes that maybe your peers and other students cannot tell you. So a good coach will write down the mistakes that you make and will tell you how to fix them. And little by little, you will focus, because in the IELTS exam, in addition to communication, we also need you to be accurate. So we need you to be correct. If you want to, for example, get 7 on the IELTS exam, you cannot be making too many grammar and vocabulary mistakes. It's not enough. Communication is not enough. So we also need accuracy. So a good coach can tell you these vocabulary mistakes, these grammar mistakes, and little by little you will get rid of them. And then you can move towards getting a higher score of 7 and above. And also, if maybe you will not be practicing with your coach every day, and maybe you can't find a speaking partner, or maybe that person is not available all the time. So is it possible to speak alone and practice speaking alone? Yes, I tell you that it's possible. And it has its own advantages. So what I recommend that you do is imagine that there's an examiner in front of you and the examiner asks you a question. So you have a list of the questions in front of you. These are the questions that have been on the exam before, and they might be on the exam in the future. You read the question and imagine that you are taking the exam right now. You answer the question, and then while you're doing that, record yourself. So after you record it, listen to it again. I'm sure that you can pick some of your own mistakes, because I tell you that because in my own experience, in my own classes, when my students speak, I type down their mistakes. When I show their mistakes to them, in many cases, they can correct their own mistakes. So this shows that you can at least correct half of your own mistakes if you record yourself and listen to it again. And then another thing is, when you're listening to your own recording, you might think of better words. You might think of better ways of saying these things. And then again, you can repeat the process. You can record yourself one more time, and this time try to correct those mistakes and try to use the better words and try to be a little bit faster, because one of the problems is that we will pause too often when we speak. Fluency will be low. So if you practice the same, answering the same question several times, and each time record it, listen to it, do it again, little by little, your fluency also increases. You will be also more fluent. And then also don't forget about the role of listening. Just like reading influences your writing, listening influences your speaking. I don't know if it has ever happened to you or not, but when you watch an English movie for 1 hour, 45 minutes, after that, you feel that you can speak better. You feel that you can say some sentences, or you like to speak English. That's because of the influence of listening on your speaking. So when you are exposed to more and more listening material, you will probably get better at speaking as well. So these 4 areas influence each other. And by getting more listening practice, by listening to podcasts when you go for a walk, by listening to the news on TV, this can also improve your speaking as well. Okay, and that's it. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Wow, very great explanation. Thank you so much, Coach Naeem, for delivering your insightful, your excellent lesson today on how to improve our IELTS skill. And just now, Coach Naeem has explained about how to activate our active and passive listening, how to deal with different pronunciation, with accent, and how to deal with new words or unfamiliar words regarding to our listening. And so in reading, yeah, just now Coach Naeem has explained about how to practice with the long and short passages, with scanning and skimming techniques, and so how to activate our reading skill. Yeah, in reading skill, actually, we are supposed to focus on vocabulary and learn the vocabulary from the context. Not only that, Coach Naeem also explained about how to activate our passive reading. Yeah, there are some tips just now he has mentioned. And so in writing, wow, some people face some problem related with writing, but just now Coach Naeem gave us some tips related to improving our writing skill. And the last but not the least, related with the speaking, yeah, we need to remember that sometimes idiom and phrasal verb, it's quite difficult for some students to put it in the right sentences. Okay, before we move to the next session, Wawan, what is the next section, Wawan?
Okay, it's a Q&A time. We have 30 minutes to ask a question to the Coach Naeem. Okay, participant, don't forget in the last 10 minutes, we will do an attendance list. So make sure you're still with us till the end of this session.
Okay, Wawan, let's find some question for our participants. We will start from the right hand first. Is there anyone to answer the question? Please, you can use the raise hand feature on your Zoom. Anyone to give the questions? Okay. So, okay, Coach, while waiting for the participant asking for the questions, honestly, I have one question related with the speaking, and I'm a bit confused about using filler because we couldn't deny that when we speak, most of people use a filler. So using filler in our speaking session, in our speaking test, do become a matter, or it can affect to our score?
Okay, so I would say there are two types of fillers. Some of them are not very useful. For example, some people just say, okay, just saying, that's not a good filler. So first of all, you said fillers, just so everyone knows, fillers are words, expressions, sounds that we use when we can't remember what to say, or when we need a moment to think. Yeah. So if you just go, then that will not be considered a good filler. That will probably not have a good influence on the examiner. That will count as a pause. But we have some better fillers. For example, if someone asks you a question and you can't answer immediately, maybe you can go, well, that's an interesting question. No one has ever asked me that question. But now that I think about it, I believe, so all of these sentences that I just said, I didn't answer the question yet. But these are some sentences that you can use to help you think, to give you a while to think. So these are good fillers. We have good fillers, and we have also, there's another filler. For example, the word you know. You know is a better filler than, for example, just because many native speakers also use the filler you know. If you repeat this filler again and again, so at the end of each of your sentences, you say, you know, that's probably not a good idea. What we need to do is try to create variety. So it's okay to say sometimes, it's okay to say you know sometimes, but just I think the better speakers, the more fluent speakers, will not repeat them so often. So if you are practicing at home, and for example, you have recorded what you said, and then you see that you have too many fillers like too many times, then maybe you can practice again and try to reduce that and use better fillers. So yes, I would recommend at the beginning of when they ask you a question and you want to ask the question, you can use fillers like, oh, that's a good question. Let me think about that for a while. So I believe, these fillers would probably be better, and they will sound more natural, and they will not reduce your fluency score.
Okay, thank you for the explanation, Coach. Okay, participants, if you have another question, you can ask directly to our coach by using the raise hand feature, or you can type it on the chat box. Okay, please,
okay,
participants.
If there are some question in the chat, let's see.
Okay, please. One, you can read it.
Let's see. There's no question actually.
Okay, but the topic is totally interesting. It's totally open our mind on how to improve our IELTS, yeah. And then I myself, coach, I still use some filler when I speak, especially in Indonesia. Sometimes I use as a filler, yeah. And I think sometimes it become a nature for me.
Ma'am, I see one question in the chat box. This is from Trevisina Nirwa.
Okay, you can read it, Wawan, please.
What is the difference between IELTS and the Toefl? Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so the Toefl exam, I think the version that we are talking about now is the IBT, the internet-based Toefl. The IELTS exam right now has different versions too, but because they are similar, so we can talk about, like, we have the computer-based IELTS and paper-based, but they are similar. The question types are not very different. So let me talk about IELTS in general and the IBT Toefl. Each section of these exams might be a little bit different from each other. On the one hand, the Toefl is just academic. We don't have general Toefl. but IELTS has two versions. So if I were to compare the academic IELTS and TOEFL, in the listening section of the TOEFL exam, you only have multiple choice questions. And you will first listen to a passage and take notes and then see the questions. It's exactly the opposite of what happens in IELTS. In IELTS, first you will see the questions and prepare yourself, and then you will answer while you're listening. In the TOEFL exam, first you hear and take notes, and then you will see the questions. Another thing is that in the IELTS exam, sometimes you have to write words in the listening exam, but in the TOEFL, you just have multiple choice and you just choose the right answer. When it comes to reading, they are more similar to each other, but the question types are different. In the TOEFL exam, you just have multiple choice questions, and the questions always start from the first paragraph, and then second paragraph, and then third paragraph. So you don't need to scan that much because you know that the questions are in text order. In the IELTS, however, sometimes you may have to look for the right answer. The questions are not always in the same order. They don't always start from paragraph 1 and then 2 and 3. And in the IELTS, we have different types of questions. Sometimes you have to write a short answer, complete a sentence, choose the heading. But in TOEFL, you just have multiple choice, although those multiple choice questions have different types. Some of them ask about vocabulary, some of them ask about main ideas, some of them ask about, for example, they give you a sentence, you have to choose a sentence with the same meaning. So it has its own different types, but all of them are in multiple choice format. There are also significant differences in reading and writing because TOEFL has something called integrated tasks. And by integrated, they mean that the question is a mixture of reading, listening, and writing, or a mixture of reading, listening, and speaking. So first you will hear a conversation, then you will read a very short paragraph, and then you should talk about both of them. So in order to be able to speak well and get a good score on speaking, you need to understand the listening passage and understand the reading passage. So it's called an integrated task. So when you are doing the speaking section, it's not just speaking, it's the speaking, reading, and listening. And the same is true of writing. It has integrated writing. First, you will hear a professor talk about something, then you will read a passage about it, and then your report, your writing, has to include both the information in the listening passage and the information in the reading passage. So we have integrated tasks in TOEFL. Maybe they're trying to simulate the classroom environment where you have a book in front of you, a teacher explained, and then you have to write something based on what you heard and what you read. In the IELTS exam, however, we don't have these integrated tasks. The listening section is just listening. The writing section is just writing. It's purely writing. And the speaking section is just an interview. So no reading or listening takes place other than listening to the questions that they ask you, but there's no listening to a long passage. And the IBT is an internet-based test, so everything happens on the computer. You don't have any face-to-face interview. You just read and hear things and then speak, and you are recorded. There will be no face-to-face interview. So it's completely done on a computer, but IELTS always includes a face-to-face interview, and you are talking to a human, and that human could ask you different questions. If you can't answer a question, maybe he will ask you another question, but the computer is not like that. The computer gives you a question and gives you 30 seconds to speak. And at the end of the 30 seconds, it is stopped. You have just 30 seconds to speak. So it's a little more strict than a person who is sitting in front of you and is flexible. And the person might give you signs, tell you to speak more or less. So it might be a little different.
Wow, very detailed explanation.
Yeah.
And maybe next, there are some other question. Miss Kiki Carolina. I saw here, Miss Kiki Carolina, there are some questions. Miss Kiki, Would you mind to open your microphone to deliver your question directly to our coach? Miss Kiki Karina. Hello, Miss Kiki Karina, can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Miss Karina.
Okay,
Where do you come from?
From Majalaya, Indonesia.
Okay, so please, your question to our coach.
Yeah, thank you, Coach, for your information about IELTS. I'd like to ask some question. First, how long we must practice so we can pass the band in IELTS? Second, what is the average band to pass the IELTS? That's all. Thank you, Coach.
Okay, no problem. So regarding the first question, how long should you practice? It completely depends on your proficiency level. So if a person cannot speak English and they have only just started to learn the basics, well, it might take a while because they need to learn the language well. They reach an advanced level or upper intermediate level first before they can actually practice for IELTS. So then again, it depends on how much time that person can spend on a day, how many classes that person attends every week. It also depends on whether that person lives in an English-speaking environment or in a non-English speaking environment. It depends on all of these factors. So my own experience is related to people in Iran. In Iran, nobody speaks English on the street or in the environment or at school or on TV. You are not exposed to English. Your only exposure is in an English classroom. And most of the people who are trying to sit the IELTS exam are busy people. So they go to work every day. The maximum they can spend on English is maybe 2 or 3 hours a day in a classroom and maybe 6, 7, 8 hours a week. Yeah. No, sorry, 2 or 3 hours a week, not a day. 2 or 3 hours a week in a classroom and maybe 6 or 7 hours a week at home. So if they study like this from a beginning level, it probably takes 2 years. But if someone can focus on studying English every single day and spend, I don't know, 7, 8 hours per day, they can probably significantly reduce that amount of time. If they already can speak English when they want to start practice, for example, if their English level is already at an intermediate level, at an upper intermediate level, they can probably prepare for the exam in 3 months, in 4 months. Again, there are many, many different factors that influence this amount of time. So that was the first question. What was the second question? The passing score.
Yes. What's the average band to pass the IELTS?
Yeah, okay. Actually, that question does not have an answer because IELTS doesn't have a passing score. IELTS, when you take the IELTS exam, you will get a score from 1 to 9. And an average student, an intermediate student, will probably get 5, 5.5. A person who can use the English language and communicate easily, despite mistakes, will get 6. A person who has a few mistakes, but many of the sentences are correct, and this person can actually read and handle different passages, is able to communicate in different contexts without many mistakes, is a 7. A person who speaks English very fluently and can use very complex language and is completely comfortable will probably get 8 or 8.5. And 9 is the perfect score. So supposedly the person who gets 9 is perfect with no mistakes in anything.
Yeah.
So depending on what you are taking this exam for, you need a specific score. If you are, for example, trying to enter a PhD program in Canada, as I know, most universities ask for a 7 or 7.5. If you are trying to enter a PhD program in Europe, most universities ask for a 6.5, for example. If you are trying to immigrate to Australia, then you will get a certain score based on your IELTS score. Maybe, for example, if all of your scores in IELTS are above 6, you get 5 points. If all of them are above 7, you get 10 points in the immigration process. So you have to see what you are trying to do, which university, which major, if you are trying to trade to which country, and what are the rules. And then you will find out. I had some students who only needed 4.5, and I had some students who needed 8.5. So it depends on everyone's situation is different. There's no passing score. Everyone's looking for a specific score.
Thank you, Coach, for your information.
No worries. Thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you for the explanation, for the answer, Coach. Now we move to the next questions. There are 2 people here who have raised their hand. Okay, we move to Nur Kumalasari. Miss Nur Kumalasari, would you mind to open your microphone? Okay. Please unmute your microphone, Miss. Okay. Hello. Yeah. Where do you come from, Miss?
Halo, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay.
Introduce me. My name is Nur Kumalasari. I'm from Makassar, Indonesia. And actually, I'm just only a housewife, but I do really interested with this topic about IELTS. It really to be great honor to join with all of you, the best speaker, Coach Naeem Tazakkor. This is the best presentation that I ever have for IELTS, for the short, such kind of a short course actually, because this is just only 2 hours. But this is a very, very best presentation, I think. I just only have a simple question actually, sir. I ever heard from my friends who ever took an IELTS test and they need to complete 7 score for having a overseas program. But unfortunately, they just only take such kind of like 5 or 6 score. And it makes them need to reply so many times for having that task. My question is there is no for example, when we have get the final score for the certification of IELTS, don't we have such kind of like the whole score that which part we have a wrong answers for that, for example, so we know and we don't need to take more and more tasks, just only for have a 7 score like that. So sorry because my English is not so
let me see if I understood your question correctly. So you are saying your friend took the test, and in some area, in some skills, for example, maybe in listening only, she couldn't get a desired score, but in some other skills, for example, in reading, she got a good score, right? Is that what you're saying about your friend? Because
yeah, maybe so like that.
Because when you take the IELTS exam, you get a score for each section, for each skill. You will get 1 score for reading, 1 score for writing, 1 score for speaking, and 1 score for listening, okay? But then also there is an overall. So my overall might be 7, but then I have a 6 in writing, for example. So if your friend took the exam and maybe her overall was okay, but her score for one of the skills was not good enough, then unfortunately she has to take the exam again because that's the rule in IELTS. You cannot just take one skill. You cannot just take the reading exam. If you want to take the exam, you have to take all of the skills again and get the scores that you need. I don't know if I understood you correctly or if I answered your question completely.
Oh, yes, sir. What I mean is like this. For example, there is a paper that we have answered for all of the IELTS questions. When we have the score for that, there is no how to say it. There is no detailed information about which part of task that we need to improve, for example.
Okay, so you mean when you get the test result form, when you get the test result, the final test result? Yeah, the final test result, for example, tells you you got reading 6, writing 5, for example, something like that. It doesn't tell you the details, for example, in which part of the reading you had questions or you had mistakes, or in which questions of the exam you couldn't answer well. That's what you mean, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you know, it's true that when you take the actual test, they will not tell you exactly part of the reading or in what part of the listening you did poorly and in what part you did well. It's true. But some of the organizations that offer the IELTS test have special mock exams, and they call them analytical mock exams. So this means you can take the mock test, which is cheaper. It's much cheaper than the real test. And then you can get an analysis of how you performed. For example, they will tell you in the listening exam, you had mistakes in these areas. So this is called an analytical mock exam. It might be, it probably should be available in your country as well. The organizations that offer the test, they should also have mock tests, and some of these mock tests are analyzed for you. But if that is not available, you can just get help from an IELTS coach, and then the IELTS coach will probably tell you your weaknesses even before you take the exam. If an IELTS coach, for example, reads your writing, he will easily, or she will easily tell you where your problems are, and then you can improve those particular areas.
Okay, so it's such kind of like joining an IELTS course. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can join an IELTS course, or you can take a mock test that is analyzed. Some mock tests are analyzed, and then you get the analysis of your performance. Yes, but not the actual test, because the actual test is both too expensive and without any analysis. Yes.
Yes. Okay, sir. Thank you. Very pleasure to have your answer.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Ms. Kumala Sari, for the question. Thank you, Coach, for the answer. Wawan, how about in chat box? Is there any question from the chat box, Wawan?
I already told the participant to ask their question, but there is no.
There is no one new questions. Okay, there's still one participant who raised her hand here. Please, Miss Yurista Ayu. Miss Yurista Ayu, can you hear my voice?
Okay, yes, I'm hear you.
Okay, you can turn your camera on.
Sorry, I don't not able to turn on my camera.
Oh, okay. So please, your question.
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you for the given time to me. And hello, Mister. Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you too.
And okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Yurista Ayu Puspita. I'm from Makassar, Indonesia. And so I want to ask you, sir, what is the solution if nervous on the IELTS listening test? It's usually underestimated, even though it is self-confident that determine which answer will be chosen, and also being nervous can cause blanks and loss of the direction to focus. I think that's all, sir. Thank you.
So your question is, what do we do when we get nervous? Is that it?
Yes, sir.
What should we do not to get nervous? So I think, first of all, a certain degree of anxiety and stress is natural, because even before this this meeting, I was a little nervous. And when a person is supposed to take a test, we have all experienced it. You might be a little nervous, and it's natural. But I think one thing that can help you is to prepare. Well, if you know that you have practiced and you have prepared, that can reduce your anxiety a little bit. Another thing you can do is tests, mock tests that simulate the exact same exam situation. So when you take 1 or 2 mock tests, you experience the same situation several times, probably it will reduce your anxiety a little bit. And then after that, there are also some techniques that maybe I am not the right person to ask, but I've heard that, for example, if you are taking an exam in an environment, maybe you can, before the exam starts, focus on the things around you and find things that are funny and try to distract your attention from your stress and from your nervousness. I've even heard some people take some sort of relaxation medicine, but I don't recommend that unless a doctor recommends that. But pretty much that's it. That's what comes to my mind. I think you can just take mock tests, prepare for the exam, and maybe you can find some relaxation techniques on the internet, but I'm not really an expert in that area.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Coach. Next, Wawan. Still you there, Wawan? Is there any question from the chat box? Still no?
Yeah, still no.
Okay, so we move to Farel. Farel, can you hear me, Farel? Mr. Farel?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay, so please your question.
Hi Coach, my name is Muhammad Farazak Kedinfa and I'm from SMK 22 Jakarta, Indonesia. I want to ask you about what you mentioned earlier. It's about the listening section in Ielts test. Is the listening section in Ielts test contains 2 accent speaker, like from the US accent speaker and the UK accent speaker? And if there is, do we have to learn the pronunciation from that 2 accents? Thank you.
Yes, actually, as I also said while I was presenting, we don't have just 2 accents. You may have more than 2. So you may have Australian, British, American, Canadian, Irish, Kiwi from New Zealand. It's possible, but you don't have anything that is too difficult to understand. So there are some accents in English language that are very, very different from the standard American and British. So you will not face those in the IELTS exam. I have even heard non-native accents on the IELTS exam. But again, they were clear. So they were clear enough and correct. For some words, we have 2 or 3 different standard pronunciations. So for example, for the word advertisement, as I said, both advertisement and advertisement are standard pronunciations. So yes, you need to understand them both, because the speaker might be American, might say advertisement. The speaker might be British, might say advertisement. Or for example, the word laboratory. British people say laboratory, but Americans say laboratory. So these 2 pronunciations are both standard and acceptable, and you need to know both of them. In some accents, some words are pronounced a little differently. For example, an Australian speaker might say, "Don't do this." So "don't do this" is the same as "don't do this." So you need to be able to understand if the speaker is Australian, or if you're listening to British people, they may say car park, while an American would say parking lot. So this is both the pronunciation of the word R in British, which is car instead of car, and park instead of park, but also a different word, like Americans say parking lot, but the British would say car park. So you need to know these standard pronunciations, both of them, in order to be able to understand. And this is the same thing. It's the same in the real world. In the real world, when you're speaking to people who are speaking English to you, they may say laboratory, they may say laboratory, and both are acceptable and both are understandable. So if you are taking the test also, you need to know and learn these different pronunciations.
Okay, thank you so much for the explanation.
You're welcome, no problem.
Okay, because there is no question in the chat box, I see there is one question from Abdul Aziz. Mr. Abdul Aziz, do you hear me? You can open your microphone.
Okay, can you hear me?
Okay, please, your question, sir.
Okay, I just want to ask this. The questions from Jeffrey and Luana is my response actually. That's assuming me. The answer from that question is that's truly clear actually. But so I sum up what your answer, that IELTS is more important, right? But why most of Indonesian tends to take Toefl test better than IELTS? That's the big question for me. So where did you cover this?
So is that a question for me or for
you? I'm sorry, sir, but your voice is not really that clear.
Okay, but why most Indonesians tend to take Toefl test better than IELTS? Why?
Okay, coach, you can answer it if.
Okay, if I understood the question is, why do most Indonesians take another test instead of IELTS?
Yeah.
TOEFL instead of IELTS. You said TOEFL. So why do most Indonesians take the TOEFL test instead of IELTS? Well, I can't really answer for Indonesians because I don't know, frankly speaking, I don't know about the situation in Indonesia. I can tell you about Iran a little bit, or what I think. Most of the time, the TOEFL exam is like, if you want to go to Canada or the US, and if you are trying to attend university in the US, probably TOEFL is recommended because TOEFL is, I think, if I'm not wrong, originally American. So if you are like the kind of person who uses a computer all the time, who is comfortable with computers, because in the TOEFL exam you have to type the writing and you have to use a computer. So for people who are comfortable with the computers, and for people who are joining a university because the TOEFL is just an academic exam, the TOEFL is preferable. So it depends on your personal preference. You prefer a computer test. The speaking is conducted on a computer, the writing is typed, and also it's an academic exam, so you can use it for your university. But if, for example, you are just immigrating, and this is for immigration purposes, probably the IELTS General is the way to go, because it's a little easier, and because most countries like Australia, for example, accept the IELTS for immigration, and they may not accept a TOEFL academic for immigration purposes. And again, it comes down to your personal preference, like, because the question types are a little bit different. You may lean towards one, you may like one better than the other. So personally, I have taken both of them. I have taken TOEFL twice and I have taken IELTS once. If I wanted to take one exam, I would prefer a computer-delivered exam. So I would prefer IELTS, the computer-delivered version, or Toefl, because I'm much more comfortable when I'm typing or when I'm working with a computer. It's been a long time since I worked with pen and paper. I don't have any notebooks. I do everything on my computer. So personally, I would prefer a computer-delivered exam. But I know many students who prefer a paper-based exam. And even if it's difficult for them, they try to find somewhere that still offers the paper version of IELTS. So I think it depends on your personal preference. At the moment in Iran, IELTS is much more in demand than TOEFL. So if I get like 10 out of each 10 students that I get, maybe 9 of them are asking for IELTS and only 1 is asking for TOEFL.
Thank you, Coach.
No problem. No worries. Thank you for your question. Good question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abdul Aziz. Maybe I just can give you a bit comment related with your questions. Why people in Indonesia prefer to take TOEFL than IELTS? The first maybe because it's quite expensive, and the second maybe it's quite difficult than the TOEFL. Maybe later, Coach Mr. Beko will add some answer. Thank you, Mr. Abdul Aziz.
May I add some? Hello.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, we do really sorry because we are limited by the time. Yeah, and actually the explanation totally great. It's totally improve our knowledge about the IELTS. And honestly, Coach Naeem, we still want to hear the experience. We still want to listen the knowledge from you. But we do really sorry because we are limited by the time. And as we know that we all really need this IELTS not only to prepare ourselves, but also to prepare our students to measure their English proficiency. And actually, it's our privilege for having you today, Coach.
Thank you so much. The privilege was all mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Coach. And before closing this session, let's hear some words from our participant about their impression after joining in this international English training class, batch 3 by VLC Indonesia and supported teams. Okay, we will find some participants for the impression. How about Miss Nur Kumalasari? Still you there?
Yes.
Okay, so Miss Kumalasari, would you mind to give us your impression after joining this program with Coach Naeem?
Oh, it's very wonderful for having a great presentation from Mr. Naeem. And this is the best event I ever have for this December. Thank you for all of the participants and the great hosts, and especially for the founder of VLC Indonesia, Mr. Baker, for inviting me to join this VLC program. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Miss Kumalasari. And the next, please, Wawan. You can invite the other participants.
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna invite one more participant to give his impression about joining this topic by Coach Naeem. That's fine. How about the person before, Farel Adinfa from SMKN. Yeah. Okay.
My impression for today's presentation is the material of the presentation today is very fresh and very new for me, because I was on a TOEIC test. I was a TOEIC test takers, and other than TOEFL and TOEIC test, I can know that TOEIC. I'm sorry. I can know that IELTS test is So from today's presentation, I can know that what is IELTS test and how does the IELTS test working. Yeah, like that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Farrell.
Thank you
Well,
so much.
participant, we have already seen how amazing Coach Naeem in presenting his topic today. So can you give us 2 words? Yeah, give us 2 words for our coach today. So we will hear it from Miss Siti Marlina. Are you there? Miss Siti Marlina? Okay, we move to Miss Trianawati. Are you there, Miss Trianawati? Miss Trianawati. Okay, please unmute your microphone, Miss. Your microphone, please. Okay, please, Miss.
Okay. I think that VLC is able to move my passion to learn and learn more. And thank you for bringing in such an amazing coach. Thank you, Mr. Naeem. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
2 words for Coach Naeem. Miss Triana, would you mind to give us 2 words for Coach Naeem?
Extraordinary coach.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Miss. The next one.
Okay, Miss Ulfa, now I would like to ask our participant about VLC Indonesia. Let's see. How about Mr. Ryder M. West Jakarta?
Good.
Okay. Good. Oh, yes. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay,
You're
thank
welcome.
you so much. Okay, for Coach Naeem. So, Coach Naeem, what do you think about VLC Indonesia after becoming the speaker here?
Yes, it was a fantastic experience. I'm so glad that I was lucky enough to be a part of it. And I wish you all the best.
Okay, thank you so much, Coach. And the next, I would like to invite Mr. Beko, the founder of VLC Indonesia, for giving the closing statement. Mr. Beko, are you there?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, please.
Wow. Wow. The first one, I would like to say thank you so much for the best host as Urfanita, yeah, from Unasma University in the West Celebes or in the West Sulawesi. And also thank you so much for panel host Kurniawan. And the last one, I would like to say thank you so much for moderators is Tata. Yes. So actually, this is the amazing day, and I have an international English 10 class batch 3 by VLC Indonesia. And I want to show you my gesture. Per Coach Naeem, my brother, Naeem, Tazakkor, 2 times for you. It's really fantastic. Wow. So actually, special for me, I'm very amazed to follow your presentations, and I believe, and also all participants here, this is the new one. You can give delivers some tips for how to understand, how to improve our about IELTS skills. So I'm really lucky to invite you here, but this is the last time that you have to come here. You have to promise that you want to come here for the next for the second time in 2022. Yes.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah.
Honored to be part of it. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. And then I don't know how I can repay your kindness actually, because yeah, you are really kind to come here to share all of your experience about IELTS and knowledge actually. And then I would like to thank you so much for all the participants stay in VLC Indonesia. But don't worry guys, don't worry viewers. So we have still another meetings for the next meeting actually. And then I would like to show you some of the videos for the next meetings with Russia and India. So please help me operators to show the video. Hello? Hello? Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I'm Lila Pansari. I'm an English teacher at SMKN1 Tazakkor. I'm one of international course and international English training class Club 3 by VLC-Indonesia. Don't forget to join us on December. See you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello everyone, I'm Fanny Ananda from SMKN 1 Ponorogo. I'm so happy and honored to be one of the hosts in International English Training Class Batch 3 by VLC-Indonesia. To be honest, this is my first time, but I'm so excited and can't wait to see you to learn together in this amazing program. So guys, please be there. See ya!
Wow, the last one. Yeah, still one.
Hello, it's me, Anna. I'm online teacher and blogger from Russia, and I'm one of the speakers at International English Training Class. My dear colleagues and language learners, I'm looking forward to sharing some useful tips with you. But first of all, I want to thank Mr. Bako, the founder of VLC Indonesia, for such a great opportunity. So, my masterclass starts on the 26th of December, and the topic of it is some effective strategies to create English culture in schools. So, see you soon.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hen Sewati, an English teacher from Vocational High School 22 East Jakarta. I'm also the leader of English Teacher Association of Vocational High School from East Jakarta too. Thank you, Mr. Bako, for inviting me to be one of the hosts in International English Training Class Batch 3 by VLC Indonesia and Vocational High School 22 East Jakarta. Come on, guys, joining this amazing series webinar by registering yourself. Why? Because it is very useful for us to improve our English ability with some foreign native speakers. Don't miss it.
Hello everyone, my name is RJ Rizky Fadila Wibowo, a student of SMKN 22 Jakarta. I'm here to tell you that SMKN 22 Jakarta and VLC Indonesia are collaborating in International English Training Class Batch 3 by VLC Indonesia. I'm so excited to be the co-host there, and I'm going to be more excited to see you all be there. So go register and join right now. Bye-bye.
Wow. So guys, viewers, don't forget, don't miss it for another one, for another meetings the next week. So before I would like to back to the host, Coach Naeem, how do you know actually Indonesia?
Well, thanks again. Thanks again for all of your beautiful comments. And also I see some comments in the chat box. So I just want to thank everybody. Well, about Indonesia, I know that it's a country in Southeast Asia, and I know that the weather in Indonesia should be hot and humid. So you probably have a very beautiful nature. And but to be frank, I'm not very familiar with the culture of Indonesia. But yeah, that's what I know is about the country, the climate, and probably the nature, the beautiful nature. Probably you have lots of jungles and green spaces. Am I right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The rain, I mean. the rain and because of
Okay, so
the
Coach Naeem, can I give you a challenge for you to exchange the word or sentence Indonesia that you have to repeat me? Okay. So you have to repeat me my Indonesian sentence. Okay. Saya senang hadir di VLC Indonesia. Di VLC
Indonesia.
Wow. So actually you have a good pronunciations to actually in the words Indonesia. So you have to come here, my brothers, because we have a popular or famous one place here we call Bali. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you heard before that?
Yeah, I've heard of Bali. Yes.
Wow. So no worries, because you have a lot of friends here, including Mr. Bako, that you just text me if you want to come to Indonesia.
Thank you so much. I would definitely,
Okay.
love to come to Indonesia if the opportunity arises. Yes, definitely.
Well, my brother, the last one, thank you so much again I'm Mr. Bako as a founder here in the team, and also for all the supporting teams, Unasman. Thank you so much. We can meet again for the next meeting. Coach Naeem, Tazakkor, thank you so much.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I have to back to house Ulfa and Kurniawan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baker. And finally, I want to say thanks a lot to our speakers, Coach Naeem, who has shared an amazing topic today. You really inspire us to learn more about the IELTS. My thanks to VLC Indonesia for trusting us for being the host for today's session. To all supporting teams, to my moderator, and to all participants in Indonesia and abroad.
And once again, I would like to say our big thanks to all participants from Indonesia and participants from around the globe for joining us on this fourth session today. Don't forget to stay tuned in VLC Indonesia for the next week, because we still have some another interesting topic.
And I would like to say thanks to my host, Kurniawan, one of our talented students from Communication Science Department of Al Azhar Mandar University, for being my great partner in this session. You know, Wawan, we do really had a lot of fun today. And we really hope that this event inspire us and making us more credible, making us more smarter and to be useful person for our environment. So I'm Miss Ulfa and my panel host.
And I'm Kurniawan from Al Azhar Mandar University. Thank you so much to the speaker and to all participants for joining our International English Training Class, Batch 3 by VLC Indonesia.
Hold on, Wawan. Hold on. Before we end this session, participant, let's take a picture. You can turn your camera on and we will take the picture. Okay, let's take a picture. Hold on.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, the next slide.
1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, the next.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, participant, please don't forget to visit VLC Indonesia social media platform. You can check it on Instagram at VLC_Indonesia and the YouTube channel on VLC Indonesia and supported teams.
See you next Sunday with our another amazing speaker. Keep your health. Continue to monitor Indonesia VLC program on Instagram.
Have a nice day. See you next week. Stay safe and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You can get attendance list, attendance list in the group, yeah. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Bako.
Hello, Miss Riri. Thank you.
Thank you.